Hi, thank you for joining me for today's process video. Today I'm scrapping a photo of me and my daughter and my husband and my son. We went to New Brighton, which is a seaside resort near us, on the 2nd of January. I'm trying to think when it was. And we took these two photos. It was a bright sunny day on one side, and on the other side it was really gloomy, and we had a little bit of rain when we got there, but it was great to get out and get some fresh air. So I just wanted to document these two photos to show the difference in the weather in one day. And I've pulled out Fernwood, Vicki Boutin Fernwood. And you can see I used a Vicki Boutin stencil to create some stenciling on the base cardstock before coming in with all my blue scraps from Fernwood to cut strips. They're about 3/4 of an inch wide, and the width of the paper, and about 3/4 of an inch deep. And I'm just going to lay these out across the page. And if you know me at all, you can probably see what's happening. I did my stenciling and now I'm going to cover it all up with these strips. I really didn't think it through and hadn't realised just how tall I wanted the strips to go. So they completely cover that stenciling. It's ridiculous. So I have a little bit of a faff about with these. Once I've laid the strips down, I have a little bit of a mess, but realise that I'm just going to have to add some more stenciling afterwards. So just having a look through to find the photos, which are buried underneath all those pieces. And as I say, these are all the scraps. It was just the blue pieces from Fernwood. Fernwood is such a variable collection. It's absolutely gorgeous. I want to do a layout next with the peaches and pinks that you can find in it, just to show the variation, because I always think of it as a green and brown collection, but it's far from it. So just having a play about and working out how the positioning is going to go. And now you can see I'm just roughing up the edges of the paper strips, and then I'm going to glue them down with some wet glue just through the middle, because I do want to stitch through these strips. So just trimming off the edges, and they more or less go to the edges of the page, just with a few little gaps. And then this is another strip that I had left over from a border punch piece that I'd done on a previous layout. So just adding that down so nothing goes to waste. Checking again with my photos, and here I am coming in with that stencil again. I wanted to use this one because it's like a wavy stencil, so it's perfect for days at the beach. And I'm using speckled egg as the ink. Right at the beginning you will have seen I considered chipped sapphire, but it's just too dark, so decided to go in with this speckled egg. So I'm using this stencil at the top and just going through very carefully, adding a few bits and pieces. And then on the bottom I'm going to pull out a Tim Holtz stencil, which looks a bit like netting, this one here, and just adding a tiny bit to the bottom of the page. You can barely see any of it by the time I finish with the layout, but it just adds a bit of balance and adds something to that bottom area. So now that's done, double check that I'm happy with where the photos are, and then I can come in and do my stitching. I just felt that I needed one more piece at the top here, so just tearing the edges of that, and then I'll add that. And I'll do the stitching off camera because you don't need to see me bringing my sewing machine in. So there it is, just white cotton, some zigzags, mainly straight stitch, right the way through each of those strips. So now I'm going to add some mats to the photo just to make them stand out a little bit from all those strips. And again, just using the scraps that I've got left. I found this navy blue with the white polka dot, and this piece works. It's not as wide as the photo, but that's fine. You don't need the mat all the way around, because I'll be adding bits and pieces and ephemera around the edge, so that's fine. And then a piece of this grey stormy sky paper, which is perfect to go with the picture of the boys with the stormy sky above them. So just trimming down the excess, and again checking the positioning, and then I can start coming in with the layering. I do want to distress those edges. I just use my fingernail to distress the edges of the strips on the paper, but I wanted to use my Tim Holtz edge distresser just to get a bit more distressing on the papers for the mats. So now coming in with my 6 to 25mm foam pads. You haven't seen these for a while, but I'm making a comeback. Because the strips on the paper are quite textured, I wanted something that would adhere this down properly and give a bit of height underneath those strips. So that's why I'm using the foam this time round. So you add in the top photo first and then coming in with the bottom one. And I do mess about a little bit again with the positioning just to check that I've got everything central, because I want to offset the two photos. So At first I think I want the one of us to the right and then decide that actually I want that to the left. I'll get there in the end. So just popping those down, and then I'm going to start pulling in some of the ephemera pieces that I've pulled out of the Fernwood collection. So there's a little notebook piece that's going top left hand corner, and you'll see at the bottom there's a vellum piece that says bring your own sunshine, which I thought was very apt. I used the magnifying glass and tucked the handle underneath the photo so it just looks like a circle popping out underneath the photo of Mealy and I. And then on the right hand side here, I'm just working on a cluster of labels. These are Ellie Studio label stamps that I've used to stamp in various blues, and I'm just sticking those underneath the bottom photo, and then underneath the right hand side of the top photo, that gold label is from the Fernwood sticker book. So now just going around and scattering some little gold hearts that I found on the, I think they were on the 6x12 sticker sheet, and adding the other half of that gold label sticker underneath that bottom photo. And once I've added it, I realised quite quickly that these things do have to go up on foam. Just as I say, because there's so much texture underneath them, they're not sticking very well without the addition of some foam to hold them up above the texture. So these are the other Sticks 2 foam pads that we sell. They're 6mm by 25mm. So I'm just using a strip of those because I'm too lazy to get my foam tape out. But they work really well. Just pulling a bit off that top one because I want it to go on top of that circle. We don't need foam there because that's already raised up onto foam, so just nestling that in underneath. And that's stuck down nicely, so then I want to do the same to the other piece. So again, just using those 6mm by 25mm foam pads to pop that down there. And it really gives some height and definition to those photos. It raises them up above the base of the card, so it's great. So now going in with my wet glue just to glue that notebook piece down at the top. And then I'm going to add my date stamp to the label on the right hand side, 2nd of January 2023. Hard to believe that we're into 2023 already. And I'm using my Chip Sapphire ink to add that on because there isn't really much black on this page. I didn't want to start introducing black. And I'm trying to tuck it underneath that photo, but it's not going quite far enough for me. So in the end, I pull it out and trim the edge off. You can see me desperately trying to get it underneath a little bit further. And of course, fiddling about with all the other pieces as well. And this is where I decide that I just need to trim that piece off, and that nestles in much neater now. Never be afraid to cut your embellishments down if they don't fit where you want them to go. So adding some glue just the very top piece of that vellum, because I don't want the glue to show through. So just adding it to the bit that tucks underneath the photo. Now this sticker says capture the moments. This was from the sticker book from Fernwood as well. And it's just to add some layering really around the photos. Gold hearts. Oh, these were the ones that I was talking about earlier. I think it was that circular black circle with the gold heart in that I'd taken from the sticker book before. Now coming in with these Bella Boulevard Florence alphabets. I love these. And spelling out New Brighton. So New top right and Brighton bottom left, which is where we were. And then I'm coming in with some gold puffy arrows from the puffy sticker sheet. I wanted to show where the title was, so New at the top and Brighton at the bottom, because they're so far apart. But when I finish the layout, after I've done some splattering in a minute, I do actually take these off. You'll see in the close-ups at the end. I wasn't quite happy. And I just didn't think they added anything really. So they do come off. So my journaling reads, both of these photos were taken moments apart at New Brighton, hard to believe. So just having a quick look through the sticker book to see if there's anything else I can add. And I find this sticker that just says these beautiful moments in a blue font, so that works really nicely there. And then, as I say, I'm going to cover it up and add some gold splatters. And that's it. Thank you so much for joining me today. Please do like the video and subscribe if you haven't already. It helps me out so much when people do that, and it really encourages me to keep going. And I shall see you again very soon for another video. Thanks again. Bye.